Hey everybody, thank you for having me. I stumbled into the conversations that we are having, I think in 2008. I was 24, 23 at the time, and I walked into the city planning office with this idea under my arm, and I said, I'm in my 20s, I live in Spencerville, what does anybody in this town do with an idea? And then people like Heather legitimized me by saying, you know what, Kelly's kind of crazy, but you should listen to him. Somehow I've arrived at this point. And what I do for a living, I teach part-time at Huntington University, which is how Craig came to know me in another way. And then in my other life, I do a lot of work through this company called Lynch Creative. It's really just me and a couple other young guys doing creative stuff. What kind of stuff? I like to kind of say that we try to tell compelling stories in a visual medium and in physical places. Well, that's pretty pretentious. What does that mean? All right. Well, I make rap videos, for one, unexpectedly. But the other thing that we try to do, telling stories in physical places, that's actually kind of what brought me here today, despite being a lifelong filmmaker and image maker and storyteller. And that's that I have fallen in love with the story of Fort Wayne. And I'll just try to recap the train that brought me here, both literally and metaphorically, because Mac talked about it earlier. There's the elevated railroad tracks right behind this building. It was this huge process called Elevate the Nickel Plate. The railroads were a huge congestive artery in the middle of downtown. From 53 to 55, they worked on elevating this railroad. It was like a $3.5 million project. And the entire north side of Fort Wayne flourished, and the south side actually dried up. But what's interesting, what kind of has really struck me about Fort Wayne is when they opened this overpass, the Nickel Plate, they had this steam engine come and break through this banner. And it was a big deal, huge deal. And a couple of years later, the city fathers said, you know what, that steam engine, it'd be kind of cool to put that in Lawton Park as kind of an iconic landmark of this major project that really helped grow Fort Wayne. So they got this steam locomotive that was going to scrap, going to get turned into paperclip, etc. And they put it in Lawton Park for a number of years. And actually, with a steam locomotive, when you have it outside for a long time and you don't do anything to it, it kind of gets rusty. And this nonprofit called the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society came along, and they said, we can not only take care of this machine, but we can make it run again. And since 1979, this group has operated the steam locomotive. It's one of like 5 in the world that do what it does, as kind of this goodwill ambassador for the city of Fort Wayne, pulling dinner trains and fall color trips, all sorts of sexy romantic stuff. And this locomotive has been sort of the catalyst for my passion for Fort Wayne, and has a lot to do with, I guess, why I'm here. When I stumbled into these conversations, it was really amazing to me to learn that there's all this focus on Fort Wayne's identity, on the trails, on riverfront development, on economic development organizations working together to try to clarify their message and their impact. And all of these groups have their own kind of specific goals. Fort Wayne Trails wants to develop a trail network. Friends of the Rivers want to revitalize the riverfront. But at the end of the day, I think the one thing they have in common is the ultimate result is a better quality of life for the city. It doesn't matter if you're a trail person, a train person, a river person, an economic development person. It's all the same result at the end of the day. These conversations, as we've all kind of picked up today, are inspiring, they're amazing, but they are also frustrating. They are vexing, because we sit in a room like this and we go, man, why doesn't this stuff happen? Why does it take so long for this stuff to move? There was that term, the conservative term. Alex, I think it was your term. What was it?
Detrimentally conservative.
Yeah, detrimentally conservative. Man, that just, I'm up nights just thinking about how to overcome this perception. And I love that in the program for today, it actually says we've got to confront our self-perception, our negative self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm a huge fan of positive self-fulfilling prophecies. We know Fort Wayne is awesome, so let's be awesome. River Rail and Trail came to me because I've realized that as Fort Wayne's trying to renew its identity and find out what the next big thing is, we've been developing these things, passenger rail, trails, rivers, etc. But we've also gone to other cities like Chattanooga, Chicago, Cincinnati, and I think some people have seen what's happened there, and they want to replicate exactly what Cincinnati has done. I'll use a water park, for instance. People say Fort Wayne needs a water park, but then you've got people over here saying Fort Wayne needs to develop its riverfront. And I go, wait a second, a water park and a riverfront, well, why don't you develop what you've got? What is part of your identity, part of your history? What is historically important in the city being here? developing our riverfront is going to say way more than a water park will ever say about any city, especially ours, because it's home. I've been rewriting the speech all day because we're all like, there's such a strategy in all of these topics kind of overlapping, so you'll forgive my occasional glance down at my cheating cards here. Flipping over here. So we've got our rivers, we're historically significant. We've got our railroads. We became what we were because of the railroads, and now we have trails traversing everywhere. And I see the Fort Wayne Trails people with their awesome new map and their brochure, and all of the trail people are like, yeah, trails, all the things, all right? Like, look at all the things you can do on the trail network. And then you have the Friends of the Riverfront who are saying, we are going to create a riverfront district. We're going to get more places where you can get on the river, etc. Then you've got crazy people like me saying trains are awesome and they can be awesome again. But the problem I've noticed is that the trail people, when you hand out your trail brochure, it only talks about the trails. And when I hand out my ideas for how to bring back the railroads and do stuff like that, sometimes people only see the trains that are involved in that program. And I say, wait a second, why are we just pandering to our niche groups of people? Of course I know the people with bikes are going to love the rivers or love the trails, but what if they were to understand what riverfront and trail development and rail development would mean for everybody, not just the niche groups that are supporting these causes? Skipping ahead through my cheat notes, excuse me. I'm like, man, that clock is going really fast, Craig. You should get that checked out. I like to think that these assets should be combined, not just in perception, but in thought and planning. And what really helped inspire this idea is I was walking with Lori Keys on the North River property, and we were talking about trains and trails, because what else are we going to talk about? Maybe salsa. And we kind of realized, for things to really change in Fort Wayne, there needs to be more people than those in this room having this conversation. We need to bust the doors off the church and stop singing to just the choir. Because we all get it. Psh, we're at TEDxFortWayne. We know we get it. We need everybody to be having this conversation. And it can't just be dreams and aspirations. We need people to get mad that it's not happening already. I'll share with you two real stories. Of course they're real, right? I'd never lie to you. Two stories real quick. During the Legacy Fort Wayne process, there was this conversation about the zoo. The zoo wanted, I think, $5 million for an attraction, and somebody on the committee said, the zoo's not downtown, who cares? And I thought, oh my gosh, like, even though the zoo might be 2 miles away from downtown, why wouldn't you want to try to tie into the largest attraction in Northeast Indiana? Another story, a member of the Northeast Indiana Passenger Rail Association, when I was talking to him about rivers, rails, and trails, he was like, well, what do trails got to do with rails? And I was like, everything. Like, they could have everything to do with it. Like, we're in control. We are the storytellers. And we've got to stop just telling the story. We've got to make it. All right, we've got to be story makers. That's my little quote there. You can tweet that later. Man, 105? All right, let's just see. So the enemy to trying to do this stuff, this conservative mindset, the what's in it for me mentality, we need to take what's in it for me and make it become, why not us too? Why can't we share in this? Why can't we have this? Why can't our city be better than these other cities? That, to me, is kind of the ultimate mechanic of overturning this perception, this what's in it for me mentality. Parkview Field isn't going to affect DuPont immediately, but it's going to change everything. I'm here today because I stood there at Parkview Field and I went, you know what? If Fort Wayne can do this, I think they can do a lot more. Just to kind of flip through my cheat cards again, what I'm not really advocating is a new organization, a new group to spur on this message, but a campaign. River, Rail, and Trail, call it whatever you want. It's your city the way it could be, all right? And it might be a campaign, it might be a website, but it's got to be an attitude at least. That it's not just the trails, it's not just the rivers, it's not just the taiko drummers, all right? Like, it is the quality of life. And if we can find a way to fuse that narrative, we will be much better off. Thank you.